Okay, folks, for this episode of Ladders to Leadership, we've got Calvin over here. Calvin's the head of business development at BidEngine, but Calvin can do a much better job at talking about his role. Calvin, tell us about what is BidEngine's and what's your day-to-day like?
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me on, Dan. Yeah, BidEngine is our free CRM platform built to, provide a platform for contractors and specifically roofers to manage projects and get really, you know, high value roof measurement reports and some other really cool tools to help power their business. And, my role as sort of, biz development and sort of heading growth and that sort of stuff is to get more users into the platform. And so I spend a lot of time experimenting with different channels and different kind of ways to bring people in. And we've had, some really great successes here in the early stage and had some struggles with some other different ways of trying to grow the business. But, it's been really fun and been cool to experiment with some of these different techniques to bring people into the funnel and work on converting them and all the fun and all the challenges that come with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what got you into this space? What piqued your interest to say yes to pursue CRMs and tools for the roofing space?
Well, I mean, that's kind of a long story. I guess it started with back in 2020. I was kind of fresh out of school and it was in the depths of COVID. And so a lot of folks like weren't hiring and it was really tricky to get a job, and there's a lot of uncertainty with what was going to happen. And so I actually uh, reached out to somebody in my personal network that I knew, who was actually Ian Collins, the co-founder here at BidEngine, and he was working with a company that was doing a roofing and solar brokerage business where they were selling roofing and solar projects on behalf of some, different people, different contractors in the area, and using a financing tool called PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy, to help homeowners, finance these projects. I guess, you could get some really good interest rates, and it didn't matter what your credit score was. And so they had been finding a lot of success with that, and I joined on as sort of like a salesperson and got some good experience, like talking to customers, learning, what are the difficulties with roofing and selling roofs and talking to people and like trying to, even manage projects a little bit in the early stages. But unfortunately, there were some challenges with that business where the sort of rules and regulations around the PACE financing changed, and it made it a lot harder for folks to be able to acquire that for their projects, and that created some pretty difficult headwinds that the business couldn't really work through. And so that got shut down. And then looking for some other venture, we decided to start BidList, which is sort of our parent company that wants to be more of a third party marketplace for roofing and eventually all sorts of different home improvement services. So instead of acting as a brokerage, it's more of an independent marketplace where folks can shop for themselves online. And then we had some really great success with that and worked a lot with solar companies who needed to use our service to help their customers out who needed a new roof before they could install solar. And so we worked on that and we still are doing that. And that's been happening for about 5 years here now. And in the last year or so, we've really been working hard on growing the new line of our business called BidEngine, which is this roofing CRM. And the reason we're venturing into this competitive space, as you put it, is because we feel like a software is getting easier and easier to build with the advent of kind of AI coding tools and AI assistants and things like that. Like it's a lot easier to ship these products, and we feel like we can put out a useful resource for contractors at a much lower cost than what's out there on the market, and still be able to make a profit and run our business. And also, we want to grow our roofing contractor network, right? We want to bring in more people that can do projects all over the country. And eventually, the long-term goal is to fold them into a larger vision of bid list that's marketed more at consumers all over the whole country. And so that's part of the reason why we built BidEngine is to, you know, bring folks in to our network and get them familiar with us, and then be able to offer them, a spot in our roofing marketplace long term. And then I'll have a way to, have more visibility into their pricing so that way we can provide more accurate estimates to customers that are looking for a new roof on the bid list marketplace, long term. So those two things right now, like BidEngine it feels very much distinct and separate from BidList, but we see a path forward in the future where they converge, and create a really powerful synergy, for roofers who want more projects and want an easy way to manage them, and for homeowners, customers who just, they need a new roof and they don't want to deal with the whole headache of having to call a bunch of different people and get everyone out to their site and have people trying to upsell them and, having to deal with kind of the headache around getting a new roof. So that's kind of our story and a little bit of our plan for the future as well.
Yeah, and I love the story how you find the solutions and you dive into it. You've noticed that, hey, there's this market, you sold in this space for some time, and then you've noticed like, okay, the pain of just actually getting a new roof in. Like, let's make it seamless. Let's make it without the upsells and the hard pushes, and the pressured sales tactics to create a more streamlined place to get quotes. And then now you're seeing like other avenues of like servicing contractors by way of databases and software because we recognize that there are more cost-effective ways to do this. And every dollar counts for small businesses out of all of these things and anything that's comes on mind for you, Calvin, it's like what's been your proudest moment so far in working with BidEngine and Bidlist?
Recently, probably one of my prouder moments, I guess, is unlocking a little bit of the growth funnel for BidEngine. In the early stages, we had a few people in our network that we knew, roofing contractors that we had relationships with that were kind of beta testers, I guess, for our platform. And so we had some people kind of using BidEngine and liking it and giving us feedback. And we were thinking, all right, we're ready to get, more people into this. And we didn't really know what the best way to do it was. And we had experimented with some kind of, cold emails and cold calling people and advertisements on Facebook and such. And one thing that I found that was really really good is going into some of these roofing Facebook groups. There's like big groups where people talk about being a roofer or projects and just big groups in Facebook with like tens of thousands of members. And I just put some really simple posts in there about, hey, we offer $9 roof reports with a 30-minute turnaround. For some reason the algorithm picked it up and these posts like went crazy and got a ton of responses and people were really interested, putting in the comments like send me more info, like hitting me up in the DMs and stuff. And I was like, oh crap, maybe there's like a lot more interest in this than we thought, based on our initial kind of advertising attempts. That was really cool, and we had a huge spurt of user growth really early, and so that was really exciting for the whole team. And I had really had my hands full, reaching out to all these people and giving them the info they wanted and trying to convert them and had a lot of quick early wins on the board, and so that really just juiced everything up and was a really exciting time for us.
That's such a cool concept to think of. I mean, like there's this whole concept of like fish where fish are fishing, and like you can test the waters with things, but like go into a place organically, where like some people may spend thousands of dollars in ads. You just simply just went into a place where like it's a free marketplace and truly just added value. There's a pain in going through that roofing process. It takes a long time, and if you outsource it out, it's expensive. Well, now you're providing a cost-effective and fast turnaround process out there. I love that. What else has been working well for your business lately?
Yeah, so After that initial growth spurt where we got a bunch of users on, obviously, right, when you have a big change to your business, like a bunch of new users coming in, like you're gonna maybe be a little more overwhelmed with dealing with their issues and stuff. So we had to sort out some bugs and like cleaned up the process and added a bunch of new features and like um, just kind of managed that for a bit before we started our next spurt. But when I went back into the groups maybe a month later or so and posted again, this time around, the comments, of course, people were still really interested, but we had a lot more people saying, "Hey, I've used this and it's legit. And this is like, it's great. And I love getting my requests back in 30 minutes and like, trust it, guys." Because the first time around, people were skeptical, right? There was a ton of
Yeah.
skepticism. They said, what's the catch? I don't believe that this is real, blah, blah, blah. And, I do my best to try and convince someone like, hey, we're not scamming you. Like, we're just trying to operate our business here. But to have that social proof the second time around turbocharged those posts even more. I think we got like twice as many responses on those because people were putting in the comments like, I use it, it's legit, it's pretty insane. And so I was sharing all those comments with the people on our team, and we were all getting really fired up and excited about it. And then I went and asked those people, I'm like, hey, I'm super, like thankful that you would put a comment, kind of gassing us up in the comments here. Do you mind if I like use that as a testimonial on our website? And so, everyone was like, sure, yeah, we like it. And we're able to kind of extract those comments and put them on our website and, you know, add some social proof to our concept and our business, which I think has been really good.
Yeah, and that's great. I love how like it's no longer just you advocating for yourself. You have social validation from people of their peers saying like I'm sure that just compounds out. Now, when it comes to servicing these contractors, walk me through one of the success stories that you're most proud of. Help me understand some of the customer stories that's been coming out from this.
Yeah, no, it's been, I think one thing that we're able to do that maybe some of these other players in this market aren't as great at is, at the level we're at, like we're able to provide a pretty high touch experience for these people. And one of the users who commented on my post and was really skeptical about our ability to provide this and just didn't really believe it and was kind of like, I don't know, talking crap for lack of a better term. He actually ended up giving me his phone number and I called him and I walked him through, hey, this is what we do. And I was just really frank with him and honest. I'm like, if we can't measure a roof for you, then we're going to let you know and we're not going to charge you for it, but we're going to try and do our best. And so he sent me some test properties to measure that he's like, I haven't been able to get a report from any of the other players in this market. Let's see what you can do. And it took me a while and I had to really try my best, but I was able to get him back a report and he was ecstatic about, how accurate it was and the turnaround time. And he went from somebody who was like a real kind of naysayer and skeptic to one of our biggest champions now, which was really funny to see kind of the turnaround that some people have after touching our product. Um, Another kind of success story, I guess, is um, we've kind of hit our stride with some of the other marketing channels as well. I'm really interested in getting people in the funnel. So any way that we can do that, we found some more success with doing Facebook ads and that sort of stuff. And now we're seeing a lot more kind of word of mouth growth. Um, we've implemented some changes where when people sign up, you know, to use our platform, we're capturing a little more info about like, hey, where did you hear about our company? Like, how do you know about us? And that's been really great to see people's responses saying, hey, I found you from the Facebook groups, or I clicked on an ad on social media, or hey, I was referred to you through a friend of mine, a colleague, and just seeing all those different channels show up in the people that sign up has been really, really kind of gratifying. I'm like, all right, this is good. We're on to something.
This is cool. I love how you've affected both of them. Like the biggest skeptic can become your loudest advocates. It's like what
Yeah.
I'm hearing from you because they had the most where like they put through a lot at you to make sure like, hey, is this thing actually legitimate? And now they can talk about all the things that people would probably have objections that send to you. Like, well, here's a case study that address every single piece that you're talking about. If it's too high of a grade, if it's the composition's off, or like the we are able to do this in a way that's cost effective and win-win for both parties. I love that. And then just the concept of you starting to expand to other channels with the Facebook ads, word of mouth, and then just getting that feedback loop in place. So you're starting to track the ROIs of where to dive into now. And as you're growing, what we find is, for what we've heard, Calvin, is there's also growing pains that comes with this. And I'm sure, like as an early stage company and like starting to hit your stride and get this momentum, what's been the hardest part about running the business today?
Yeah, I would say the biggest challenge right now is um, honestly, there's kind of two main ones. One's like satisfying all the feature requests that people want. We want to stay focused on like what's going to be the best sort of bang for our buck in terms of development resources.
Sure.
And we don't want to build a bunch of features that aren't going to really contribute that much long term. And so, a lot of our users, and we always love feedback from them. And sometimes they want to see certain things, and we're like, we can't really do that right now. Like, we got some other stuff that we got to focus on. And that can be challenging. And we've seen churn from that. People are like, hey, I want to see this. And we're like, look, that's a great idea. We want to implement that. We got a lot on our plate right now. And then they're like, okay, well, I'm going to go somewhere else then. And that really sucks,
Sure.
because I want to help everyone out and I want them to be really stoked and satisfied with our platform. Um, but I guess sometimes that's just inevitable when you're kind of a small company and people are pulling you in a bunch of different ways. Like, you got to stay focused. So you take the good with the bad. Another one is like, our main revenue source is providing these roof measurement reports for contractors, roofing companies that, they need accurate measurements on these houses all over the country. And we use some third-party sources to obtain like imagery of these buildings that we use to do the measurements. But sometimes the imagery isn't great, or it's in a really like rural location, maybe like in the woods or a forest or something where there's a bunch of trees obscuring the buildings. It makes it really challenging for us. And we've had some folks that I guess have had a bad experience where they like, hey, like this one measurement was off. And of course, if there's a measurement that has an inaccuracy, like, we're going to refund you for it, and we'll even revise it if you see something that's wrong. But we've had a few customers churn because of that, and I take that as like a learning experience. And we want to set the right expectations with our users about, hey, this is what we can provide, this is what you can expect from us. And so learning how to navigate that and sort of setting the right expectations has been a little bit of a learning experience, but I feel like we're navigating it pretty well.
Yeah, and I appreciate you being honest and candid about this, where like you'll find companies that are early stage, like they want to be everything for everyone. And it just ends up burning everyone. Like by being able to stay focused and understanding your feature request roadmap, you can start prioritizing what's the highest and best use and or highest impact of your customers and work from that level. It's impressive actually to hear that like, you're getting so many feature requests that comes in. Like what do you think is getting people bought in to even tell you like how to improve the software?
I think people kind of see the vision almost, like they they like what we're up to. A lot of the requests that we get are like, hey, can you integrate with my like accounting platform, and so we can like do more kind of like invoicing and payment services and stuff. And that is something we want to do, and we will do that eventually. So a lot of the stuff, it's pretty like it makes sense. Like, hey, can you like integrate with QuickBooks or something like that? And we're like, yes, we can do that. But we got some other stuff that we need to do first. Um, what else? There's some other things where it's like how we do the roof measurement reports. is not really something that like the users themselves can replicate, right? Like they don't have a way to do the measurements themselves, whereas some of these other CRM platforms, like you can go in and measure a roof yourself in there, but we don't have the capability to do that just on how the tools are set up and sort of who has access to what. And so that's been, I'm not really too worried about it, but we've definitely had some people that are like, hey, we want this. And I feel bad because I'm like, hey, sorry, like we can't offer that to you.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that are, I guess a little bit frustrating, but I don't get too bent out of shape about it.
Yeah, and that's completely fair. And I love how you talk about this because every time you described it, it's dot 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 yet. It's like good idea. Like we can't that's on the dockets. We're just not able to deliver it dot 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 yet. So there's always that future perspective that comes in from you. And with any company, like I would imagine there are always things that get hung up, like bottlenecks in your operation. If you could wave a magic wand, what are two bottlenecks in your operations that you want to get fixed?
If I could, I mean, having more like development resources would be great, I think. Um, you know, you got to be careful though, because you don't want to just throw money at development and build things that aren't really going to contribute well long term. But I think overall that would be nice. And then the other one is just, um, I want some more support on my end, and maybe selfishly,
Mhm.
and just being able to reach out to more people and do follow ups quicker and faster and get more people involved in growing the business. Those are probably the two things that I would want to increase right now.
Yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day, it sounds like just having more resources for you, just to like scale
Yeah,
what's working for you. Like,
yeah.
hey, like this works. Like we just need to add more headcount for dev work. And then on
Mhm.
the same time, biz dev is like, hey, follow-ups becoming a lot more than ex anticipated. Like we just need to start adding more resources to focus on this.
Yeah.
Cool. And would you say like that's probably more of your time nowadays? Is actually, let me ask you this question. From like a business development perspective, you have your outreach and then you have your follow-ups and like your strategy that comes into play. Is like, where do you see or feel like most of your time or resources are being like put towards, and then what's feels more of like a drain for you?
I mean, you know, I like experimenting with different sort of marketing channels and finding stuff that like really has an outsized impact on the growth of our business. We found some stuff that worked. It's interesting. Like I said that we had some really great early wins with like the roofing Facebook groups, but over time we've seen sort of the potency of that marketing channel kind of decrease a little bit. And so I'm always looking to explore what are other things we can do. And one thing I'm doing right now is like trying to get more like articles and posts and like SEO things happening where we can share more about what we're doing online and hopefully have maybe, eventually like search engines pick it up or even like AI, LLM models serve responses to people that are looking into it on like ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever. This is kind of a, you know, bleeding edge technology that people aren't really used to, right? As far as
Yeah.
like a way to market your business, right? If you can have, you know, people find your company through doing research on, using an AI tool, then that could be incredibly, powerful. And so that's something I want to explore. You know, Part of why I accepted this podcast and is so interested to talk to you is like maybe this will help me to that effect. You know, and yeah, those are some of the things that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, and you'll find that a lot of folks are they know something's possible with it, but they're not thinking like the mechanics of like what happens. And I love that you're talking about instead of SEO, which is that search engine optimization, like there's this common trend now of LLM EOs. Like how do we optimize on the new version of search, which
Yeah.
is the ChatGPTs, the Claudes of the world, where like
Mhm.
you're not combing through 3 pages of search engine purple links. It's now the link that's provided the key source of information that's viewed as the thought leader for this region or that region. So there's something commendable to talk about that. And let's talk more about like these future state perspectives. So let's look into like that vision that comes with BidEngine. Like where do you see the business heading in the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, I would say, you know, we definitely want to keep growing based on this sort of marketing channel that we found to be effective, which is marketing these roof measurement reports. And we also can provide sort of proposals or estimates that we build on behalf of, contractors that they can use in their own sort of sales appointments and that sort of stuff. So those are two things that people are really interested in, and I think we're going to continue to grow that. And then we're going to fold in some other um, products that are going to be a part of the platform. I think one of which I mentioned is like this AI roof visualizer, which is something that we're going to be launching pretty soon here, where anybody, I guess, but primarily we're going to be marketing it towards roofing contractors and specifically folks that are in sort of roofing sales, so they can show customers, hey, if you're looking at, this kind of roof material or this color, here's what that's going to look like on your roof, which I don't think is something that a lot of other um, hasn't really been available to people in the past. And these kinds of tools, I'm expecting them to become more and more commonplace. But we want to, get out early with this and use it as sort of a cool marketing technique to get more people in. So I think hopefully we'll be able to double or triple our user base in the next 12 to 18 months. Um, get contractors set up all over the country in every major market, and then have some success rolling out more of a consumer based marketplace in BidList that has some synergies with BidEngine and sort of the contractors in our platform there. We're going to be starting with a consumer marketplace in California here before the end of the year. And we'll use the learnings from that to sort of go nationwide, hopefully by the end of next year. Um, yeah, there's some challenges with marketing and doing projects directly with consumers instead of having sort of a solar installer or a solar company that brings in the deal and
Yeah.
helps manage it, which is kind of what we were doing more traditionally with BidList. So it'll be fun and it'll be definitely a learning experience to kind of figure that out here when we launch our consumer marketplace in California. But we've got a lot of experience doing these projects, so I'm sure it won't be too hard for us to kind of get going with that.
Yeah, and you're not afraid to test and experiment. Like that's the one thing I hear from this perspective is we're gonna try these pieces and see what lands, see what sticks in place. And it's exciting to hear about these new things that are on the horizon. So like a roof measurement report. So like be able to provide estimates and proposals for those contractors. And then like it's that dream state perspective when people it's funny because this is top of mind. Like when my partner and I like when we got our place, like we started she started putting different colors of paint on the wall and goes, hey, like what does this look like? Well, you can't really do that with roofs yet. Now you can start visualizing some of these things that like other home applications were able to provide this like real dream tool, so to speak. You can now start seeing like, well, what does it actually look like at scale? Not just for like the consumer, but like how can a roofer differentiate themselves by having these types of tool sets? So it's exciting. And lastly, that consumer marketplace. Yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day, like you guys started with like this marketplace methodology. It's cool to see it from like the consumer level, and still
Mhm.
staying true to that aspect. Now we are getting close to time over here, Calvin, and I know you've got a lot of insights in place and a lot of trials and learnings that come through. I'm like, let's take a step back and look at Calvin's 5 years ago. What advice would you give to Calvin's when he was starting his journey and trying to figure out his place in the world and how to contribute to society?
Yeah, I mean, 5 years ago, right, we were kind of in deep COVID. Um, there was a lot of uncertainty with, what was going to happen. It was funny, like when I graduated school, I got a degree in biology, right? And I was really into like the sort of natural sciences and like learning about ecology and like plants and that sort of stuff. Like that was kind of what really interests me at school. And I still like that stuff and I'm still really interested by it. Um, and but really what I found is like have an open mind about the paths that life might, take you on. Um, and, you know, I've found a lot of, even though it's not really something that I like studied in school or like pictured myself doing, like I still get a lot of satisfaction out of the work that I do, and working on growing a business is super rewarding and challenging at the same time. And every day is a little bit different. And one thing that I really liked about studying, science or biology in school was like running experiments, right? Seeing
Mhm.
what works, like learning new things. And that's been something that I've been able to carry over into this role is like do experiments and test about marketing channels or growing or products or like, what do people want to use? How do people use it? I love giving feedback to our development team about things like user interface or user experience, right? After getting feedback from our users, all right, how can we make this better and more easier for them? And then seeing that implemented into the platform, and then seeing, people's stories after using and be like, yeah, I really like this now. This is looking really good. And so, yeah, I still get to do experiments and we get to work on a product that is helping a lot of people. I never really would have imagined myself involved in kind of like the roofing industry. It's kind of
Sure.
random, but it's still really cool, and I like being able to be a part of a startup company that's growing a product and just wearing different hats and trying new things and you know getting involved in building something. That's something that I really like doing.
Yeah, well said. I love the concept of doing experiments and testing. Like, I feel like we get too comfortable. I mean, I get comfortable with it that hey, this works. Like, just keep going with it. But being emotionally resilient enough to be aware, like, let's try other things, even though we don't know if it's gonna work. Like, it's a learning exercise to go through it. So, like, I can
Mhm.
definitely appreciate it from my perspective. Now, last, Calvin, where can folks find out more about BidEngine and BidList?
Yeah, I mean, you can if you're on Facebook, you can follow our BidEngine Facebook page. You can go to our website. It's called bidengine.app. Um, and yeah, we're going to be putting some more posts on our Facebook page, on our Instagram page. So you can follow us on socials there. Um, and yeah, we're going to be putting out some more content and helping people just, especially if you're in the roofing industry, if you're a roofing contractor, definitely check it out. I think we could help you guys out if you need reports or if you need a way to manage leads or projects or customers. And then also, if you're interested in getting a roof for your house, if you're a homeowner, check out BidList. You can use it right now. It's free to use, and you will get quotes back for your house um, typically within 20, 30 minutes. So, yeah, super easy.
Ah, great, Calvin. Appreciate your time with this. Thanks again for great episodes of Ladders to Leadership.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Dan. Pleasure.